You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the studio, Supreme Court Judge David Ashton Lewis.
Well, as always, good to see you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to, we'll discuss the topic for today, and I hope it's enjoyable for the listeners.
All right. So now and then, it's just one of those things that, happen periodically. Is that what we're discussing this morning?
It's one of those generic type topics, isn't it? So I've given this topic at different groups that I've spoken to, and they're all people of over the age of 60, and they seem to like it. And so looking at now and then, like what have we got now in our life? We have issues that are so important for everyone. We've got the transgender issue. We've got wokeism, and that has cancel culture and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've got, and we've seen it a couple of times recently, if I don't agree with you, I'll kill you. Your words are violent. Yes. And as the governor of Utah recently said, words aren't violent, violence is violent. And I think that was right. And we've now got the battle between feelings and the truth.
Sure.
The factual truth. So all of this leads to an attempt in rewriting history in the current generation. And where did all of this start? It started in 1926 in the West with a group called the Frankfurt School in the University of Frankfurt. No, they didn't cook sausages.
You could see it coming, couldn't you?
Yes. And
I thought you were going to blame it all on the Bunnings sausage.
No. And, of course, the Frankfurt University is one of Germany's oldest, and it has high standing. Compared to, given I'm 75, you're what?
I'm 54.
You're 54. So people who were teenagers in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, and even in the early 80s, these words that I've just said for now weren't even a consideration. They were not even considered. Yet now, in our societies, we're spending so much time on these. For instance, safe spaces at universities. And if you say...
When was university never not safe?
Well, it was always
Do you remember
not safe.
Do you remember being at university and not feeling safe, David? Because I didn't ever.
No, I felt safe, but there was youth exuberance, and there were the federal police coming on the campus in the late 60s looking for draft dodgers.
Oh, yes.
And you didn't have that in your years.
In my years, that I was at Nathan campus at Griffith Uni in Brisbane,
yes.
And they decided to put in some, expand the university, and if you know that area, it was in forested land. It was very green. There wasn't an environmental science component of the university. Well, they decided they had to cut down some trees to put these in. Well, we had people chaining themselves to trees and spiking trees and doing all sorts of things and marching militantly and crying about the environment.
Every generation will move forward. But to have someone fired from a university campus because people were in a lecture heard things that worried them. The whole basis of university was to disagree, debate, and bring these things out. Now...
And when you go back to it, and again, people take things far too seriously, a lot of these ideas, and you've got to remember what they are, and it's one of those things that we've got to apply to everything in life. Before the internet, let's just take it back to before the internet, we had books, and we read what was in books, and we took it as the spoken word or gospel or a fact, because usually those things were checked and fact-checked before they were written in a book.
Yes.
Or it was a composition of philosophy, which is designed for you to stimulate your thinking and
Argue your case.
Argue your case. Now, you would either agree with that book, you'd partially agree with that book, or you'd go, that was just utter rubbish.
Yeah. And debate it and put up your grounds for it.
Sure.
And be prepared to be smashed.
Absolutely.
You had to be if you're going to do that. But now, I think I mentioned on a recent show a good colleague of mine who I met in law in 1968 made a comment about the different requirements for alcohol consumption of men and women. And I think we mentioned it last week, that health groups have put out that for a man, 2 standard glasses of wine or 2 standard glasses of beer. For a woman, 1 standard glass of wine, 1 standard glass of beer. He made this mention and he was dismissed.
So this is a statement of fact.
Some women were offended by it.
Now,
You just said it. He made a statement of fact. In fact, I've found 3 cases in the New South Wales Supreme Court that uphold that.
Yes, absolutely. Look,
So it's facts versus feelings, isn't it?
well, remember that if you didn't like what you were hearing, you turn it off. If you don't like what you're seeing on the television, you turn it off.
And in the lecture theatre, if you didn't like it, you sat
or-
and then debated with friends. I didn't agree with that.
Absolutely. So I would imagine that if I was Karl Marx way back when and I decided to put pen to paper and came up with all of those wonderful writings, and I'm going to call them wonderful for one point, and the point is that these were thoughts on a page. It was designed for us to read, consider. Like anything normally in life, we think about conversations, we think about information, and we decide whether it is pertinent or relevant to us, and whether we're going to indoctrinate that into the way we think or the way we view the world, or not. That is it.
And Marxism-Leninism
was to stimulate thinking, I thought.
Well, yes, Marx and Engels wrote about there needs to be a new approach to society. Now, naturally, conservative France, Germany, everywhere else thought it was just rubbish, and they dismissed it.
Yes.
And then young revolutionaries in Europe, and particularly Russia, Imperial Russia, thought, no, this is really good writing. And thus they took this on, and we had the Russian Revolution in 1917, and then we had revolutions throughout. Well, I better be careful, because after the Second World War, the only socialist nation before was really Russia. But then at the point of a gun, did those revolutionaries in Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Romania, they then picked up the mantle supported by the Soviet government? Well, that's called politics. And they got the upper hand, and after 1945, the cultures of Eastern Europe became dead, dull, and boring. And then in 1990, another generations that had come up and said, we don't like this, we don't want this. And so it changed again, and those countries are now more closely aligned with what they were before 1945. So, look, the change is ineluctable in mankind and in thinking, but it also has to be tempered. Remember that judge saying to Mr. Robinson, principle is a fine and noble thing, but it must be tempered with common sense. Now, the trouble is with 72 genders, which is one of the things put up, woke, cancel culture, diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't agree with you, so I'm going to be violent. I'm not going to debate with you.
I don't agree with you, or we're going to go to the extreme and call you a racist.
Of course.
Dear, you've got to shut up now.
Yes.
Because you're a racist.
Yes.
Well, you just labelled me that. Let's explore whether I actually am or not.
Let's explore this. If you're left of anything at the moment in our societies, you're labelled as a progressive.
Yeah.
If you are conservative or more to the right of that medium, you are,
And I'm noting
you're called a racist.
But also I'm noting nowadays that, and again, isn't it funny, at times if you don't truly understand or you don't live and breathe it, we'll just label you. You're extreme right, you're extreme
Yes,
left, and
yeah.
that's a bad thing.
Yes.
So I find I like to take those two terms out of the equation because we should just be looking at the issues at hand. Not, oh, you're left, you're right, you're a racist. Hang on. Well, we'll debate those in a minute. Let's just talk about the topic at hand. You're losing, so you've just labelled me something.
Yes. And you're winning, so you're just labelling the loser something as well. And you have the upper hand because you're winning.
Yes.
So we've got to stop all this because it's showing that we're not operating by common sense. If you truly believe that there's more than just male and female, that's fine. Argue your case, put up fact, not feelings, and let someone who says, no, I believe that's wrong, they should put up fact. And there be proper debate on it.
Look, it's funny, and forgive me, I'm not intending to offend in any way, shape or form. In some of the documentation we get from our government or government for compliance, what we end up getting is questions like this. How many people in your institution identify as a woman?
Oh, yes.
Now, that is probably the more politically correct statement because
it's probably
you can
the
be
more correct.
you could be male or female, but hang on, I'm a male but I identify as a
That's
woman.
right.
Now, that's probably fair because we do need those two definitions. Competing in a sport as in a female sport when you started off a male, unfortunately, that gives you an unfair advantage over your competitors. So that, unfortunately, shouldn't be allowed.
But then to stop it and have the government or whoever is stopping it as fascist.
But again, we give it a label, don't we? Fascist. Oh, it's a terrible thing.
It is.
Well, you've just done a terrible thing. Those fascists were bad, weren't they?
Those men should be able to, provided they identify as a woman. Now, what would these people do if an African American, 6'8",
Yes.
strong, muscular body, competes against women sprinters, and all he's done is identify as a woman. He's dressed as a strong male athlete. Are you going to let him run against women?
Look, going back to the labelling, you're a fascist. Basically, it cancels out the proper conversation that should have taken place. Well, if you believe identifying as a woman means that you compete, we feel that you have an unfair advantage due to the fact of your genetics giving you a stronger frame and the ability to compete. Now put forward your argument and tell me why you should be allowed to compete as a woman. Now, that should be the logical discussion, shouldn't it?
Yes,
but it is destroyed by, you're a fascist.
Yeah, and emotion and feelings, it's facts over feelings.
Sure.
And feelings, if you're doing that, you're discarding the facts for feelings. It's one more step to feelings are worth more than the actual truth.
Look, I often find when it comes down to this is the people who are in charge or the people who are making the decisions sit there and think to themselves, oh, for goodness sake, I don't want the argument. I want to keep everybody happy.
Yes.
This does need to be an argument. These things do need to be challenged. There are a number of issues here that, and again, we can try new things, and I think we should be trying new things and looking at new things, but it should be tempered with
common sense
and an element of caution. It's very similar to AI nowadays.
Yes.
I look at it and I'm very excited about what AI can bring to the table, but I'm also very concerned if it is used incorrectly, the damage it can also do.
Look, humans have a massive history of using things correctly and incorrectly. As Oppenheimer said, after the Manhattan Project produced the atomic bomb,
Albert Nobel
Yep.
came up with the Nobel Peace Prize due to the fact that his invention was killing people.
It was. And so that is always the challenge. And you have to hold anything within boundaries. Don't let this go too far out of the arena. So we now have the constant fear of nuclear warfare. And yet it was designed to stop war. And they've only ever detonated it twice, and it did stop war. But then when competing philosophies got hold of it, it was then used, and still is today, as a threat, a sword of Damocles.
A sword of Damocles. I do love that term.
Do you?
Look, it is very interesting. Then and now. Well, we've got to now. What about then?
Well, then, when you were growing up, your mother and father raised you with morals and principles that they were raised with. And you didn't argue. And here's the danger with the modern woke. Their children will be raised with, well, cancel culture's normal. I don't like what you're saying, so you've lost your job. Or, my feelings are more important than the truth. No, but I want to tell you the truth. I'm not interested in the truth. I'm interested in my feelings of being offended. Oh, I don't want to hear this. I need a safe space that I can go. Or trigger warnings. Have you heard that one?
No, I haven't heard
Well,
that one.
trigger warnings are a lecturer has to come in and say, now listen, what really this friend of mine did. He should have said, look, I'm going to make reference to what is established as fact by the medical profession, has been upheld by Supreme Courts.
David, would you have ever thought in your time that you would have had to preface with
Never.
a fact like that? I don't mean to offend anyone because it's
never.
a statement of fact, right?
It came close to me when I said I was in an important teaching position, and before every class there was a welcome to country. Now, I did say to them, I don't want to be offensive to you, but I find welcome to country dangerously divisive. It will encourage extreme anti-Aboriginal people to just dislike them even more. It will encourage the people who believe in it to say, well, we're just not one country here. We have Aboriginals. This is their country. So I once said, so are we just eternal tenants paying rent? And I had these young people say, yes, we are. And I said, well, I think you really need to go away and read history, constitutional history. So I feel that I'm uncomfortable with welcome to country. I know they're coming from a good heart, but I don't think it achieves what is. So I will excuse myself from welcome to countries. Well, good heavens, I had everyone from my age, a bit older, down saying, but you're a good man. How could you do this? And I just said, I could do it because of my conscience.
Look, it's funny because I agree with you. And if I look at the way the Indigenous culture of the country, that they want to be inclusive, and it should be inclusive. But I see football games that are at the Indigenous All-Stars, divisive. I see welcome to country, divisive.
Yes.
I see a number of things here that fly in the face of what they're trying to achieve. Now, we have a lot of Aboriginals who are involved with the station.
Yes.
Absolutely love their involvement, have the utmost respect for their culture and what they do in the community. I mean them no disrespect in any way, shape or form. I just think that needs a rethink.
Well, and you see, I think you're right. I think the word rethink, because we are all Australians, whether you're black, white, Asian, Pacific Island, you've come here because of the way the country was developed. And that wasn't developed by Aboriginals, wasn't developed by Anglo-Saxons, it was developed by the conglomerate.
Yes.
So Aboriginals have had a hand in what we've got today.
Absolutely.
But
they fought in wars. They've built the country. They've built railroads. They've toiled and laboured too, exact like what we've done to achieve what we're standing on today.
I can't remember his first name. Waters. He was an Aboriginal fighter pilot with the Royal Australian Air Force in the Pacific, flying P-40s. How many Australians know about him? He was treated appallingly. He was trained. He became a first-class fighter pilot. But when the war, and he married a white woman, and they had a lovely marriage. But the only work he could get when after the war was over was as a cleaner.
Wow.
Now that's appalling. I would say, listen, judge him on his merit.
But equally, David, and again, we're not judging on skin here. World War One veterans who came back who'd lost limbs, who'd lost legs, were suffering from shell shock, were basically ostracised. One story I read was the only job that this person could hold down was driving a lift up and down all day long.
Yes, yeah.
Now, we don't just treat black people appallingly. We treat lots of people appallingly, and then we find that it is something that.
Well, one of the good things about them now is there's far more compassion.
Yes.
So in the raising of the position of the first Australians, it's achieved a lot of good. It's made all Australians think, yeah, golly, they are us. And then a person like Jacinta Price, one of them who comes out and says, I don't agree with the Voice, I don't agree with the way, and now she's being treated as a normal human because she has said, one, I won't apologise to Indians because I didn't mean it in the sense that you people
have
taken it. And two, I don't have confidence in the leader, Miss Ley, so I will resign. And so she gets kicked out of the cabinet. But I think we're going to see a lot more of Jacinta Price in the future.
Look, it's interesting, David. But look, there's a bigger discussion here. I've enjoyed the conversation. Yes. Couple of minutes of summary.
Well,
then and now.
I think we've got to be
now and then.
Yep. Well, then and now. So we've got to look at what past generations came from. They added, they contributed. Look at the now, and be able to discern between the good of the now, the bad of the now, and the lunacy of the now, because there was bad in past generations, there was lunacy in past generations, so we've all added to what we've got in this country now. So I suppose the spotlight is on the millennial generation now, and people hopefully standing around saying, careful, careful, sensible, sensible, but you add to our life in this beautiful country.
David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4crb.com.